I'm Dr. Marcus Lashley. I'm a wildlife ecologist, and I started the UF Game Lab at the University of Florida. We started a multifaceted study in Florida. We use the hashtag Florida Turkey Project if you want to follow along, but this particular aspect of it I think is particularly important because we are trying to understand poult ecology and understand how vegetation characteristics and insect abundance affect their growth. And that's a pretty important thing because there are indicators in some populations that the population has or is declining. And there's also information published in the literature suggesting that poult rearing is particularly poor. The problem with that in wild populations is that it's really difficult to study poults, to understand what influences their success, just basic things about their growth rate and habitat selection, where they do the best, survival. All those things are really difficult to track because the poult, when it hatches from the egg, it usually only weighs somewhere between 45 and 55 grams, so really tiny. Just think about a chicken egg. The turkey egg's not much bigger, and it's got to be coiled up in that. Well, over the course of just a few weeks, it may increase 2, 3, 4 times in terms of its weight. So we don't really have the technology right now to track them with traditional methods like radio transmitters, and that has made it really difficult for us to understand what's going on. But we know, based on the information we have, that can be a bottleneck on populations. So this project is a pretty special one because we were able, through our radio tracking of hens, to salvage several nests that failed for some reason. Multiple instances the hen was eaten by a predator while she was incubating. We had a couple of instances where a land manager mowed over a nest and caused it to fail. So through a variety of means, we were able to collect wild turkey genetics, and we have a facility here that we can keep them in. These flight pens are designed to house wild birds. In this particular setting, it's perfect but for our question because we're able to essentially bring a tractor in here and do agriculture. So that's allowing us to manipulate the vegetation in different ways that people would be able to accomplish on their own land, and then forage actual wild turkey poults in there to understand how that vegetation community and insect abundance affects their growth rate to flight, which is that critical window. It's about 2 weeks after they get out of the egg. That's when the majority of mortality seems to be occurring, and that 2-week trial is where we can figure out what kind of combination of plant characteristics and insect abundance actually facilitates them successfully getting to flight fastest. So that's what we're trying to achieve, and I think this is a really special project in several ways because we also, to do this, they in wild forage with their mother hen, right? Well, in this case, there isn't a hen. So what we have done is actually imprint the poult. So when they hatch from the egg, they imprint to a researcher. You can hear my babies maybe peeping in the back. They're imprinted to me. They literally think that I'm mama. And I basically have a treatment, a vegetation that I walk around in them for hours a day, basically being the mother hen to these poults while they forage. And it's been really interesting trying to track every behavior and how many insects they're catching, what kinds of insects through that whole process has been really cool. But it's going to allow us to address that critical question for conservation of turkeys that we just can't do in the wild well.